Hello everyone. So in this second video of data analysis, we are going to learn how we can clean data, and the data we are going to clean is the one you are seeing on the screen, the Excel data. So when you look at the column names and you look at the last name, you'll realize that the values are not consistent, like names having slashes, and you look at the addresses, you realize that they need to be splitted. So the data I have is the one you are seeing. So you'll realize that the data need to be clean so that we it can take the right format. So even the phone numbers, we'll have to correct them. So this will help us organize when we have a data with huge number of columns. So the data I have it on I uploaded it to my GitHub, so I'll leave the link. So what I'm going to do is we are going to retrieve the data using Python code. We download it so that we use it. So from URL library dot request, we are going to import URL retrieve. So what we are going to do next is that we are going to assign our data a variable. So let's call it Excel data, and then I'm going to paste the link. So the link I already copied, that's the GitHub link, the one you are seeing here. So it's what I copied and we pasted it there. So we are going to download that data. So let's retrieve the file that we want using the URL retrieve. So URL retrieve is a function that takes two parameters, the variable name and the file we want to retrieve. So we are copying it, and then we paste it there. We have it there as a string. So this cell, when we run this cell, we'll be able to load that data with us. So we can check the type of the data so that we see if we've really loaded it. Before we do that, let us just run and we see if our cell is running perfectly. So as you can see from the output, we were able to retrieve the data from the GitHub link. So what we are going to do next is we are going to read the file, reading the Excel file. So we'll use Pandas, which is a Python library for data science. So import Pandas as PD. So let's have a variable name. Let's call it df, meaning data frame. So our data frame is equals to pd.read Excel file. And we pass in the file name in form of a string. So let's copy it. And then let's call it. So we are calling the data. So let's read the data. So when we compile, you'll see that we've loaded the data on our Google Colab. So you can see the same data we have is the same data that is displayed as the output. So that is basically how we are reading the data using Pandas. And now what we are going to do next is clean the data. And we are going to use some data science methods that are already defined. So we are going to start with the last name. As you can see, the last name we are not supposed to have the dots and the slashes, so we want the first name to be consistent. And before that, let's check if there are any duplicates, and we delete, and then we'll have to use regex, that is regular expression, to organize our phone number. So let's remove any duplicates. So we are using drop duplicates method, and as you can see, our number 19 and number 20 has the same data for all the columns. So when we execute it, you can see number 20 does not exist, so we dropped it using that cell. So we are going to clean the last name column, but before that, let's delete the column that is not useful. So we are going to drop that as well. I hope you are grasping how we are doing this. So data frame is equals to data frame dot drop, and then we pass in the column name. We paste it. So our column name is the not useful one, so not useful column. So the reason why we are dropping it is because it is not helping in a way. So when we run the cell, you can see now we have dropped it. It does not exist now. So after dropping that, let's now focus on the names. We remove the unwanted characters in the last name column. So let's copy the cell name. So data frame is equals, so the data frame that we want to clean is the last name. Is equals to data frame last name. So we are going to convert it to string. So we are getting the error, so that's because we need to convert the values there into string first, and then So after we are using the dots, we are converting them to string and then we strip. So strip function is used to remove the defined character. So like in our strip function, we've defined 1, 2, 3, the period, the underscore, the backslash. So you can see the defined variable removed from the last name column, and now the names look nice. So what we are going to do now is to organize the phone number, and a little bit of regex knowledge is needed here. So we are copying it. We are copying the name and the code looks similar, so we'll just replace the last name with the phone number. So data frame square bracket phone number means that we are only modifying the content within that column. And what we are going to do now is we are going to replace so from the regex knowledge, we are going to use the upper arrow. So upper arrow means we accept. So we are going to when we have upper arrow here, it means that all the values we are going to define there, they are exceptional. So we are not going to replace them. So everything that is from A to Z lowercase, A to Z uppercase, and 0 to 9 will remain, but anything that is not within that range, we are going to replace it with an empty space like that. So this is just a bit of regex. This one looks simple. So when we execute, you can see now from the output, phone number is now a little bit organized. We managed to remove the backslashes, forward slashes, the vertical lines. So what we are going to do next is to remove the characters. So like when you check the data before, so we have cleaned it, so the all four numbers are consistent. So what we are going to do next is we are going to split the address value. So we are going to make it look cleaner. So the none, that one only means the value is null. So we'll do that for all the columns. So we'll leave it at that. But before that, we are going to replace the NA values with an empty string or an empty parameter or a blank space, that is. So let's copy the code again. And we paste. So we are going to replace the NA values with an empty string. So let's compile and confirm. So you can see the NA values have been replaced with an empty string. So the null values will work with them for when we are dealing with all the columns. So we are going now to organize the address column. So we are going to split it using the split function from Python knowledge. So data frame, and then we define the column we want to modify, that is the address. So first we need to add 3 column names. So we are going to store them in an array. So as you can see from the address, the names there we have the street name, the zip code, and the state. So we want to add we want to add another 3 columns. So we are going to define them as a list or an array. So we define the names there, and then we say data frame address, because we are modifying the address. So we need to have it as a string. We should wrap it up with the quotes, single quotes or double quotes. So address dot, we convert it to string, and then after converting it to string, what we do now is we split all the content under it. So we separate with the empty space, and then we say we expand it. So expand, we pass in expand equals to true, so that we achieve the desired output. So let's call it and we run the cell. So as you can see now, we have splitted the address. Now it looks a little bit better than before. So we can delete now the address column. We can now drop it because now we have splitted it. So data frame, so we've already executed the cell. So we can't run same command twice. So the address was deleted on our first execution. So let us move to the next thing, that is So we are going to now modify the paying customer column. So we want them to be consistent. So we are going to replace everything that is a yes, you are going to make it y, and everything that is a no, we have n, so that it looks a little bit organized and cleaner. So paying customer column, we convert it to string first, and if we don't convert it to string, then what we are going to get an error. So we are going to replace, if a value is yes, we are going to replace it with the letter y. So if it is yes, let us replace it with the letter y, and we are going to do the same with the, if the value is no, we are going to replace it with n. So we just modify yes to be no, and that letter now we make it a letter n, and then we call it and we execute the cell. So as you can see now, our paying customer column now looks much cleaner and now pleasing. So we are going to do the same with the do not contact column. The code is going to be the same. So let's copy the same code because it is the same thing that we are repeating, but now for the do not contact column. So I'll paste the code here and then we replace paying customer with the do not contact. So let's execute that cell. So you can see now the do not contact column also looks cleaner. So up to this point, I know that you have a grasp of what it means when we say we are cleaning data. So we are just organizing data in a way that it can easily be read, and removing the unwanted parts and making it now look better using Python Pandas, which was the main aim of this video. So we are going to fill anything that do not have a value. We are going to replace it with an empty space. So anything that do not have a value, we are going to replace it with an empty space. That's what that cell does. So as you can see now, what now we are going to remove, let's remove this not applicable thing here, so that we just replace it with an empty space because it is not important. So we are going to replace it just the same way we've been replacing other values. So let's call the function and we execute. So as you can see now, we have removed it. So our data now looks a little bit better than what we had before. So we want to have only those 4 numbers that we can call, and we get rid of the ones that we cannot call. So we are going, so for x in data frame.index, so we are going to loop through if data frame.lock. So the lock there is we are using it to refer to the index numbers, or the numbering of the 4 numbers, that is. So if x in do not contact column, its value is yes, then we are going to drop it. So this is exactly what we are doing. So if the value is yes, then we are going to drop it. So data frame dot drop, we are not replacing, we are dropping it, because we want to have only those contacts that we can call. So I hope up to that point you understand what that code does. So let's call it and we execute the cell. So as you can see now, our data, now we only have those contacts that we can call. So we have arranged the data so well. So what we are going to do next is that we are going to organize now the indexing. As you can see, it skips some value, so we have 0, 2, 4, but we want it to be consistent from 0, 1, 2, like that, without skipping some values. That may be a little bit confusing. So let's do that, and that will mark the last part of this code. So we want the indexing to be consistent without skipping some values. So that is what this line is going to do. So we have executed the cell. So we executed it without calling it. So we can't run the same cells twice. So that is the mistake that always happens. So we'll always get error because the code is already executed. So I am going to organize that. So when you get this code and you run the same things, you will get a very clear input. So once I'll resume in our next class in this series of data, in this data science series, we are going to start from that point when we'll now be analyzing data to predict future events. So ensure you subscribe and you hit the like button, so that when we'll be focusing and predicting future events using the data science concept, you get notified. Up to that point, happy coding.